Operation Olympic Games, the world's first digital weapon. The dawn of cyber warfare. In the pre-dawn hours of a chilly morning in 2008, an Iranian engineer at the Natanz nuclear facility noticed something odd. The centrifuges, spinning at precisely 90,000 rotations per minute to enrich uranium, were failing one after another. What began as an apparent mechanical malfunction would soon reveal itself as the opening salvo in a new kind of warfare, one fought not with bullets and bombs, but with lines of code. The story begins in 2006, when Iran, defiant in the face of international pressure, restarted its nuclear program. President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad invited journalists to tour the Natanz facility, proudly announcing plans to install more than 50,000 centrifuges. The scale of the operation raised immediate red flags. Even for civilian energy purposes, this was far beyond Iran's needs for the next decade. The implications were clear to Western intelligence agencies. Iran was pursuing nuclear weapons capability. For Israel, this development represented an existential threat. In September 2005, Mossad submitted a sobering report to Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. Iran could potentially develop nuclear weapons within 4 years. By May 2006, Sharon had ordered military preparations for potential strikes against Iran's uranium enrichment sites. By December, Israeli special forces had reached Stage G, the most advanced stage of attack preparation. The prospect of Israeli military action created a nightmare scenario for U.S. President George W. Bush. Already embroiled in wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, the last thing America needed was another Middle Eastern conflict. But simply allowing Israel to strike Iran wasn't an option either. It would devastate America's regional policy and potentially ignite a broader war. In a crucial meeting with Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice and National Security Advisor Stephen Hadley, Bush laid out the problem. We have two options: launch another war to stop Israel, or launch another war to stop Iran. I don't want either. Find me a third option. That third option would emerge from an unlikely collaboration between American and Israeli intelligence agencies. General James Cartwright of the U.S. Strategic Command established a small cyber unit that would later become the United States Cyber Command. Working in conjunction with Israel's Unit 8200, they began what would become Operation Olympic Games. The mission was ambitious: sabotage Iran's nuclear program without firing a single shot. The weapon would be a computer virus, but unlike anything the world had seen before. This wasn't about stealing information or disrupting communications. This virus would cause physical destruction to nuclear centrifuges while making it appear like a series of unfortunate accidents. The technical challenges were immense. First, they needed to understand exactly how Iran's centrifuges worked. The Iranians were using P-1 centrifuges, purchased from Pakistani nuclear scientist A.Q. Khan. These were older models, no longer in use by other nations. The team needed to know every detail about the programmable logic controllers, PLCs, that regulated the centrifuge's speed. In a stroke of fortune that seemed almost too good to be true, the US had access to identical centrifuges. When Iran's nuclear program was shut down in 2003, many Iranian centrifuges had been seized and sent to the United States. Some were still sitting in wooden boxes at Oak Ridge, Tennessee, complete with Khan Research Laboratory seals intact. The development team faced three major challenges. First, they needed to create a virus that could jump the air gap, infect computers that weren't connected to the internet. Second, the virus needed to record normal operations and play them back to control room operators while causing havoc with the centrifuges. Third, and most crucially, it needed to make any destruction appear to be the result of natural mechanical failures. The solution was elegant in its complexity. The virus would be introduced through infected USB drives, spreading through the facility's internal networks until it found its targets, the Siemens PLCs controlling the centrifuges. Once in position, it would wait, recording normal operations while mapping the facility's systems. Then, at precisely the right moment, it would strike. Some centrifuges would suddenly speed up, others would brake sharply. The rapid changes in rotation speed would create vibrations that would literally tear the machines apart. Meanwhile, the control room monitors would show everything operating normally, until it was too late. Getting the virus into Natanz required old-fashioned espionage. Mossad agents who had been conducting surveillance on Iranian nuclear scientists and engineers discovered a crucial weakness. The engineers often took their work laptops home, where they connected them to the internet. In a coordinated operation, Mossad agents infiltrated the homes of several Natanz engineers in a single night. Using USB drives, they planted the virus on multiple laptops. When the engineers returned to work and connected their computers to the facility's network, the weapon was in place. The results were spectacular. Centrifuges began failing at an unprecedented rate. Iranian scientists, unable to determine the cause, began questioning their own competence. The program was suffering significant setbacks, and the Iranians were blaming themselves. By 2009, George W. Bush had left office, but Operation Olympic Games continued under President Barack Obama. The program was achieving its objectives. Iran's nuclear program was being delayed without any obvious signs of external interference. Then, in early summer 2010, disaster struck. Copies of the virus began appearing on the internet, spreading through computer networks worldwide. The very trait that made the weapon so effective, its ability to spread through networks, had become its undoing. An Iranian engineer's laptop, connected to the internet at home, had allowed the virus to escape into the wild. The world's most sophisticated cyber weapon now had a name: Stuxnet. Computer security experts around the globe began analyzing its code, uncovering its true purpose. The secret was out. Someone had created a virus specifically designed to destroy nuclear centrifuges. Even after the exposure, the operation continued. The US and Israel quickly developed modified versions of the virus, continuing their campaign against Iran's nuclear program. By the time Iran finally understood what was happening, approximately 20% of its centrifuges had been destroyed. The revelation of Stuxnet's existence sent shockwaves through the international community. It demonstrated that cyber weapons could cause physical destruction to critical infrastructure. The age of digital warfare had begun. For Iran, the implications were terrifying. If their most secure facility could be penetrated so thoroughly, what else might be vulnerable? The Natanz facility was temporarily shut down as Iran scrambled to protect its systems from further attacks. Operation Olympic Games achieved its primary objective. It significantly delayed Iran's nuclear program without requiring military action. But it also changed the nature of warfare forever. The operation proved that a few lines of code, properly placed, could be as effective as conventional weapons. The cost of the program, estimated at around $20 million, was minimal compared to the potential cost of military action. But the true price may have been higher than anyone anticipated. By demonstrating the effectiveness of cyber weapons, Operation Olympic Games ushered in a new era of digital warfare. Today, nations around the world maintain cyber warfare units, developing their own digital weapons. The success of Stuxnet inspired a new arms race, one fought not with missiles and tanks, but with keyboards and code. The centrifuges at Natanz have long since been replaced, and Iran's nuclear program continues under intense international scrutiny. But the legacy of Operation Olympic Games lives on in every government cybersecurity program, in every military cyber command, and in the growing recognition that the next great conflict might not begin with a bang, but with a simple computer malfunction that isn't quite what it seems. The operation that began as a desperate search for a third option between war and acquiescence ended up changing the very nature of warfare itself. In the process, it demonstrated both the power and the peril of cyber weapons, tools that, once released, might prove as difficult to control as the nuclear weapons they were designed to prevent. Operation Olympic Games represents a watershed moment in military history, the first time a cyber weapon was used to cause physical destruction to an enemy's infrastructure. It succeeded in its immediate goal of delaying Iran's nuclear program, but its longer-term impact may be even more significant. By demonstrating the potential of cyber weapons, it opened a Pandora's box that can never be closed. The operation's success relied on a unique combination of factors: access to identical centrifuges for testing, detailed intelligence about the target facility, and the ability to infiltrate a secure network through human engineering. But perhaps most importantly, it relied on the target's inability to conceive of such an attack. That advantage will never exist again. As we move further into the digital age, the lessons of Operation Olympic Games become increasingly relevant. In a world where critical infrastructure is increasingly controlled by computers, the potential impact of cyber weapons continues to grow. The operation that began as a covert attempt to slow Iran's nuclear program ended up providing a blueprint for a new kind of warfare, one that continues to evolve and shape international relations today. The centrifuges at Natanz may have stopped spinning years ago, but the ripples from Operation Olympic Games continue to spread, influencing military strategy, international relations, and the very nature of modern conflict. In the end, it wasn't just Iran's nuclear program that was changed by this operation. It was our understanding of what modern warfare could be. The Digital Ghost, a tale of KGB cyber espionage. On a cold morning in Bremen, Germany, 1985, a young computer programmer named Marcus Hess sat before his terminal at the University of Bremen. The green text flickered across his screen as his fingers moved methodically across the keyboard. What appeared to be routine programming work was actually the beginning of one of the most extensive cyber espionage operations in Cold War history. Hess wasn't working alone. Behind him stood the mighty Soviet intelligence agency, the KGB, Komitet Gosudarstvenoi Bezopasnosti, or Committee for State Security, an organization that had perfected the art of recruiting foreign assets for its intelligence operations. By the 1980s, the KGB had evolved into the world's largest and most sophisticated intelligence agency, employing over 500,000 people and maintaining an extensive network of international operatives. The KGB's interest in Hess wasn't accidental. As the Cold War entered its final decade, the Soviet leadership recognized that the future of espionage would be fought not just in shadowy alleys and diplomatic corridors, but in the emerging digital realm. They needed someone with exceptional technical skills, someone who could navigate the nascent computer networks being developed by the American military. Hess, with his advanced programming knowledge and access to European academic networks, was the perfect candidate. To understand how the KGB could orchestrate such sophisticated operations, one must understand its unique position within the Soviet system. Unlike its Western counterparts, the KGB wasn't just an intelligence agency, it was a state within a state. The KGB operated with unprecedented autonomy, answering primarily to the Communist Party leadership, rather than conventional government oversight. Its headquarters at Lubyanka Square in Moscow served as the nerve center for a vast network of operations that spanned the globe. The agency was divided into several main directorates, each with specific responsibilities. The first chief directorate handled foreign intelligence operations, including the recruitment and handling of assets like Hess. The second chief directorate managed counterintelligence within the Soviet Union. The fifth chief directorate was responsible for internal security and ideological enforcement, while the ninth directorate provided security for top Soviet leaders. This comprehensive structure allowed the KGB to coordinate complex operations that combined human intelligence, technical surveillance, and, increasingly, cyber espionage. The agency's military status meant its officers operated under strict military discipline, while enjoying privileges and resources few other Soviet institutions could match. Marcus Hess's operation began modestly. Using university computers, he established connections to various academic networks, which served as gateways to more sensitive systems. The KGB had provided him with specific targets: military research facilities, defense contractors, and government laboratories across the United States. His first major success came when he managed to penetrate the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory in California. The breach seemed insignificant at first, a mere 75-cent accounting discrepancy that might have gone unnoticed if not for the vigilance of systems administrator Clifford Stoll. But this was just the beginning. Over the next several years, Hess would successfully hack into over 400 military computers across the United States and Western Europe. His targets included the Pentagon's Optimus database, U.S. Army research facilities at MIT military bases from Germany to Japan, numerous defense contractors and research laboratories. The KGB's instructions were clear: gather information about military capabilities, scientific research, and particularly any data related to nuclear weapons development. Hess proved remarkably effective at this task, using sophisticated techniques to maintain access to compromised systems while avoiding detection. The KGB's approach to cyber espionage reflected its broader intelligence methodology: patient, methodical, and comprehensive. They provided Hess with cutting-edge technology and technical support, while also teaching him traditional tradecraft to protect his identity and communications. Hess employed several innovative techniques that were advanced for their time. He used compromised accounts to create backdoors in systems, ensuring he could maintain access even if the original entry point was discovered. He carefully covered his tracks by modifying system logs and creating false audit trails. Most importantly, he moved slowly and deliberately, sometimes spending months mapping a network before attempting to access sensitive information. The KGB supported these technical operations with traditional espionage methods. They established secure communication channels for Hess to transmit stolen data and provided him with cover stories to explain his activities if questioned. This combination of human intelligence, tradecraft, and technical expertise made the operation particularly difficult to detect and counter. While Hess was conducting his digital infiltration, the KGB was running other significant operations against American intelligence. Two of the most damaging were the cases of Robert Hanssen and Aldrich Ames. Hanssen, an FBI counterintelligence agent, spied for the KGB from 1979 to 2001. His position gave him access to some of America's most sensitive counterintelligence operations. He provided the KGB with detailed information about FBI and CIA operations against Soviet intelligence, including the identities of Russian intelligence officers working for the United States. Aldrich Ames, a CIA counterintelligence officer, began spying for the KGB in 1985. He exposed numerous CIA operations and identified Soviet officials who were working with American intelligence. The information he provided led to the deaths of several CIA assets within the Soviet Union. These human intelligence operations complemented the cyber espionage work of assets like Hess, giving the KGB a comprehensive view of American intelligence capabilities and operations. The investigation that would eventually expose Hess began with that tiny 75-cent accounting error at Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory. System administrator Clifford Stoll, intrigued by this small discrepancy, began a painstaking investigation that would last nearly a year. Stoll's methods were as innovative as those of his adversary. He set up elaborate monitoring systems to track the intruder's activities. He created honeypots, fake databases filled with seemingly valuable but actually worthless information, to keep the hacker occupied while trying to trace their location. The breakthrough came when Stoll, working with American intelligence agencies, created a completely fictional department at the laboratory. They filled it with convincing but fake military research data, knowing it would be irresistible to the hacker. When Hess accessed this system, they were finally able to trace his location to Hanover, West Germany. The investigation revealed the full scope of the KGB's cyber espionage network. Hess wasn't working alone. He was part of a larger group of hackers who sold information to the Soviet Union through intermediaries. The network included other German hackers who had been recruited by the KGB, demonstrating the agency's strategy of using non-Soviet assets to maintain deniability. The KGB's handling of this network showed their sophisticated understanding of both human psychology and computer security. They provided their hackers with specific technical objectives, while allowing them enough autonomy to develop their own methods. This approach proved highly effective, as it combined the hackers' technical creativity with the KGB's strategic intelligence requirements. The true impact of Hess's activities and the broader KGB cyber espionage program was significant. The stolen information included details of U.S. military communication systems, research data from military laboratories, information about nuclear weapons development, strategic planning documents, technical specifications for military hardware. While the immediate military value of this information was substantial, the long-term impact was even more significant. The KGB's cyber espionage operations demonstrated the vulnerability of computer networks and helped establish the patterns for modern state-sponsored hacking operations. The KGB's cyber espionage program, as exemplified by the Hess case, left a lasting legacy. It demonstrated how traditional intelligence agencies could adapt to the digital age and showed the potential of combining human intelligence with technical operations. When the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991, the KGB was reorganized into several successor agencies, including the FSB, Federal Security Service, and SVR, Foreign Intelligence Service. These organizations inherited not just the KGB's personnel and resources, but also its expertise in cyber operations. The techniques pioneered during operations like Hess's hack became the foundation for modern cyber espionage. The combination of technical infiltration, human intelligence, and strategic patience remains a standard template for state-sponsored cyber operations. The KGB's success in cyber espionage during the 1980s revealed several important lessons that remain relevant today. The importance of human factors in technical operations. Despite all the sophisticated technology involved, it was often human decisions, both good and bad, that determined the success or failure of operations. The value of patience in intelligence operations. The KGB's willingness to spend years developing assets and infiltrating networks proved more effective than quick, aggressive approaches. The vulnerability of seemingly secure systems. The KGB demonstrated that with enough time and resources, determined attackers could breach even the most sophisticated security measures. The importance of counterintelligence in the digital age. Stoll's investigation showed how traditional investigative methods could be adapted to cybersecurity. The story of Marcus Hess and the KGB's cyber espionage operations provides a fascinating glimpse into the evolution of intelligence operations in the digital age. It demonstrates how the KGB, already a formidable intelligence agency, adapted to technological change and pioneered new methods of espionage. The KGB's success in these operations was built on its unique institutional strengths, its autonomy within the Soviet system, its vast resources, its sophisticated understanding of human psychology, and its ability to combine traditional tradecraft with new technologies. Today, as cyber espionage has become a major focus of intelligence operations worldwide, the methods developed by the KGB during the Cold War continue to influence how nations approach digital intelligence gathering. The legacy of operations like Hess's hack lives on in the ongoing cat-and-mouse game between cyber spies and cyber defenders. The KGB may have ceased to exist with the fall of the Soviet Union, but the principles it established for cyber espionage, patience, technical sophistication, and the combination of human and digital intelligence remain fundamental to modern intelligence operations. As we move further into the digital age, understanding this history becomes increasingly important for anyone interested in cybersecurity, intelligence operations, or international relations. The hunt for K-129, the CIA's most ambitious secret mission. It is 1968, at the height of the Cold War. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean's surface, a Soviet submarine K-129 silently patrols the waters, carrying nuclear weapons and 83 crew members. Suddenly, approximately 1,500 miles northwest of Hawaii, it vanishes without a trace. What follows would become one of the most expensive and secretive operations in CIA history. A mission that would push the boundaries of engineering, challenge international relations, and become known as Project Azorian. On March 8, 1968, something went terribly wrong in the Pacific. The Soviet Golf II-class submarine K-129, armed with nuclear-tipped ballistic missiles, simply disappeared. No distress calls, no debris field, nothing. In Soviet naval bases, operators repeatedly tried to establish radio contact with the submarine. Their calls were met with silence. The Soviet Navy launched one of its largest search operations ever. 40 ships scoured the Pacific for 2 months straight. Soviet admirals were desperate, not just to rescue their men, but to prevent their nuclear secrets from falling into American hands. After 2 months of finding nothing, they reluctantly declared K-129 and its entire crew lost at sea. But there was something the Soviets didn't know. Miles away from the Soviet search area, at a classified U.S. naval facility, American operators had detected something unusual through their SOSUS network, a sophisticated underwater surveillance system designed to track Soviet submarines. The acoustic signature suggested a catastrophic implosion at crushing depths. The U.S. Navy saw an opportunity. They dispatched their most advanced spy submarine, the USS Halibut, to investigate. Modified specifically for intelligence gathering, the halibut carried cutting-edge sonar systems and underwater cameras. After weeks of methodical searching, in August 1968, they found it. The wreckage of K-129, lying broken on the ocean floor at an astounding depth of 16,500 feet, more than 3 miles down. But finding the submarine was just the beginning. What happened next would make engineering history. In Washington, D.C., CIA analysts pored over the halibut's photographs. The potential intelligence value was enormous. Nuclear weapons, cryptographic equipment, codebooks, and Soviet naval technology. There was just one problem. No one had ever attempted to recover anything from such extreme depths before. The CIA developed an audacious plan. They would build the largest vessel ever constructed for a single purpose, to secretly lift a 1,700-ton submarine from the bottom of the ocean. But they needed a cover story so convincing that even the Soviets wouldn't question it. Enter Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes, billionaire, aviator, and notorious eccentric, was the perfect frontman for the CIA's most ambitious deception. In the late 1960s, Hughes lived as a recluse in Las Vegas's Desert Inn Hotel, making him an ideal candidate for a secret government operation. His unpredictable behavior and wide-ranging business interests made any new venture, no matter how unusual, seem plausible. The cover story? Deep-sea mining. Hughes's company would supposedly pioneer revolutionary technology to mine manganese nodules from the ocean floor. The CIA even had scientists publish research papers about deep-sea mining to support the cover. It was elaborate, expensive, and absolutely necessary. The centerpiece of Project Azorian was the Hughes Glomar Explorer, a technological marvel disguised as a mining ship. At 618 feet long and 50,000 tons, it was a floating testament to American engineering ingenuity. But its true purpose was hidden within. The ship's most remarkable feature was its moon pool, a massive center well through which they would recover the submarine. A giant mechanical claw, dubbed the capture vehicle, would be lowered through the moon pool using a series of specially designed pipes. Each pipe section had to be precisely engineered to withstand enormous pressures and stresses. The construction took 4 years and cost $350 million, equivalent to billions in today's money. Every detail had to be perfect. The stakes were too high for failure. Summer 1974. After years of preparation, the Glomar Explorer finally set sail for the recovery site. The crew, a mix of CIA personnel, engineers, and civilian contractors, knew they were part of something unprecedented. One crew member wrote in his diary, "The sky was leaden, yet the crew had spirits that were as bright as polished silver. Mission impossible? Nonsense. Impossible was not in our vocabulary." But their confidence was about to be tested. Just days into the mission, the crew spotted something alarming. A Soviet ship, the Chazma, was heading straight for them. The Soviet vessel launched a helicopter that made several low passes over the Glomar Explorer. The tension on board was palpable. If the Soviets discovered the true purpose of their mission, it could trigger an international incident. The radio crackled to life. The Soviet ship was calling them. "What are you doing here?" The CIA crew stuck to their cover story. "We are conducting deep ocean mining tests." "What kind of vessel are you?" "A deep mining vessel." "How long will you be here?" "We expect to finish testing in 2-3 weeks." The exchange was nerve-wracking, but the cover story held. After several tense days, the Chazma finally departed. With the Soviet ship gone, the real work began. The capture vehicle, essentially a massive mechanical claw, began its long journey to the ocean floor. The descent took days. Each pipe section had to be carefully connected, forming a string over 3 miles long. The operation required incredible precision. The ship had to maintain its position within a 60-foot circle despite ocean currents and waves. Any significant movement could snap the pipe string and end the mission. After a week, the capture vehicle finally reached the seabed. Now came the most delicate part, positioning the claw around the broken submarine. Using underwater cameras and sonar, the crew carefully maneuvered the capture vehicle around K-129's hull. The claw closed, gripping the submarine. Slowly, Agonizingly slowly, they began to lift. The submarine, after 6 years on the ocean floor, began its ascent. Meter by meter, hour by hour, it rose through the darkness. The crew's excitement grew as their target approached the surface. Then disaster struck. About halfway up, something went wrong. The mechanical claw, straining under the enormous weight, partially failed. Before the horrified crew's eyes, 2/3 of the submarine broke away and tumbled back to the ocean floor. Only the forward section, about 38 feet of the submarine, remained in the claw's grasp. Years of planning, hundreds of millions of dollars, and now this. But even the partial recovery might yield valuable intelligence. They continued the lift with what remained. The recovered section contained some surprising finds. 2 nuclear-tipped torpedoes were recovered, along with various pieces of the submarine's equipment. But perhaps most significantly, they found the bodies of 6 Soviet sailors. In a moment of remarkable respect during the Cold War, the CIA conducted a formal burial at sea for the Soviet sailors. The ceremony was filmed, complete with military honors, Soviet naval hymns, and a flag-draped ceremony. The footage would remain classified for decades. The CIA planned a second mission to recover the rest of K-129. But in February 1975, everything changed. The Los Angeles Times published an explosive article revealing Project Azorian's true purpose. Someone had broken into Howard Hughes's offices and stolen documents linking him to the CIA operation. When questioned about the operation, the US government responded with what would become a famous phrase: "We can neither confirm nor deny." This response, known as the Glomar response, would become standard terminology for government agencies dealing with classified information. Project Azorian pushed the boundaries of what was possible in deep-sea operations. The technology developed for the mission advanced underwater recovery capabilities by decades. The Glomar Explorer itself would later be converted for actual deep-sea drilling, proving that sometimes the best cover stories contain elements of truth. In 1992, after the fall of the Soviet Union, CIA Director Robert Gates presented Russian President Boris Yeltsin with the film of the burial ceremony and a Soviet naval flag recovered from the wreck. It was a gesture of reconciliation, acknowledging the human cost of the Cold War. To this day, the full story of what was recovered from K-129 remains classified. The CIA maintains they only retrieved a few torpedoes and submarine components. Some historians suspect more significant intelligence materials were recovered. The truth may not be known for decades. The exact location of K-129's remains is still a closely guarded secret. Somewhere in the Pacific, more than 3 miles down, lies a testament to both the ingenuity and tragedy of the Cold War. A Soviet submarine that sparked one of the most ambitious covert operations in history. Project Azorian stands as a testament to human ingenuity and determination. It pushed the boundaries of engineering, tested international relations, and demonstrated the lengths nations would go to gain advantages during the Cold War. The operation cost over $800 million, billions in today's money, making it one of the most expensive intelligence operations ever undertaken. But perhaps its greatest legacy is as a reminder of the human cost of international conflict. The 83 Soviet sailors who perished aboard K-129 left behind families who would not know the full story of their loved one's fate for decades. In the end, Project Azorian is not just a story of technological achievement or Cold War espionage. It's a reminder of the real human lives affected by international politics and conflict. The next time you hear someone say, "We can neither confirm nor deny," remember, it all started with a secret mission to raise a submarine from the bottom of the ocean, in what remains one of the most ambitious and expensive covert operations in history.